Hey T.
Hey.
I really cannot wait to hear about what you've been up to. So, last time I interviewed you both for Careers Corner, Ayo, you were a runner on the BBC children's show Blue Peter, and Mal, you were a trainee researcher on Blue Peter. So what have you both been up to since, and where are you now?
So since the last time I was interviewed, I worked at NBC Universal at Monkey Kingdom, and there I was an office runner. And then I moved back to Manchester and I became a trainee researcher with CBBC and CBeebies. And as a trainee researcher, I worked on YouTube, making short form content and writing short form scripts. And then I also worked on social media, so that was for CBeebies and CBBC, and that was again making content for the platform. And then I worked on websites and apps. So there I was making something called LOMOs, which is short adverts that you sometimes pop up on TV, sometimes they go straight to the website. And I learned how to schedule things and learned a lot in that time. And now I work over at Coronation Street and I'm an assistant storyliner, and that's basically I work as part of a team of storyliners, and we, together with writers and the producer, come up with ideas and stories for the show. We write them up, they get given to the script writers, and then they become that becomes what you see on screen.
So at the moment I am working as a researcher on the BBC Summer Social. So as part of that we did Saturday Mashup broadcast. Before that I was working on the unscripted development team, so I did about 9 months with them. Prior to that I worked on press, so I was doing a lot of script writing. I've done quite a bit of directing and editing as well, so I've kind of tried it all out. So I've been on production as well as development teams.
What's been the biggest highlight of your media career so far?
I've been asked to go back to my university and speak at graduation and be the alumni speaker. And for me that's huge, because it means I have to write a speech, I have to speak to this new generation of students who are graduating and are excited for what they're about to start, but they also have no idea what to expect. And having been there not so long ago, I take this as a huge privilege, and I'm really excited to get to go back and share what I've learnt with a new graduating class. So that's been my career highlight so far, as well as getting this job as an assistant storyliner at Coronation Street. Because having been someone who's always watched soaps, this is a huge deal for me, and I absolutely love my job. So getting to write stories for Coronation Street, the longest running soap in the UK, even in the world possibly, it's just fantastic.
I'd say the biggest highlight of my media career has probably been all the amazing people I've got to meet. So obviously Blue Peter gets a lot of high profile celebrities. There's been some people which I personally have been really excited to meet, some childhood heroes like Jacqueline Wilson. And so I think it's been those opportunities, to get to meet people that I think if I was in a different career, I probably wouldn't have been able to meet.
What's been the biggest hurdle of your media career so far, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest hurdle I've had to overcome in the industry is just basically we have something called fixed term contracts, and the majority of jobs that we have in the industry are fixed term. So that means they're short basically. So a contract might be 3 months, 6 months, a year, and it's quite difficult.
And often you only find out like the week before that you actually got a job for the week after. And I think at first that was really difficult because you don't know, you can't really make plans, you don't know where you're going to be at in a few weeks' time. And I think getting used to that has probably been the biggest hurdle.
The way I overcome that is just being persistent, always being ready to interview again. You become a pro at interviews, and you develop a thick skin. It is quite tough. You do have to be ready to accept rejection at times and realise that it's not the right job for you and something else will come along. But yeah, that's definitely quite difficult about the industry, just not having job security all of the time, but we push on and it's always worth it. And the good thing about that is you're always working with new people. It keeps your brain active because you're constantly thinking, right, what's next? And you have to continue to develop yourself.
What's been the biggest difference between your career now and when you first started?
I think the biggest difference has probably been my mindset. So when I first started, I was really worried about making sure I always had a contract lined up. And I think probably the difference is now I do just trust that like in this line of work, stuff does work out. As long as you put yourself out there, and you make sure that the impressions you've made have been positive and you've introduced yourself to people, then I do just trust that things work out. And even if, you know, you're coming to the end of a contract, I used to be so worried, and that would really be like all consuming for me. Whereas now I just try and relax a little bit and just think I've done all I can, you know, sent my CV out, got in touch with the right people, and things just work out.
So I started my career as a correspondence assistant for Blue Peter, and that meant I would reply to posts from Blue Peter fans asking for a badge, and I'd say whether or not they were eligible and had actually qualified for a badge, and that meant that I was constantly on a database, and I was reading letters a lot, receiving the mail from the kids, and it was a great job. But that has changed quite a bit to what I do now, because now my job's a lot more creative. I'm having to think a lot about stories and writing all the time.
What's next on your career's bucket list in terms of goals and ambitions that you want to achieve?
Wow, that's a hard question. I'd probably say I do want to try working on some dramas. When I was on development, we did some of the development for some of the big CBBC dramas, and that's something I haven't actually done before. And I think I'd really enjoy that. I'm really into script writing and script editing, so I'd quite like to try my hand at a little bit of that.
What advice would you give to your past self starting out in this industry?
Advice I would give myself, my younger self starting in this industry, is just to believe in yourself and be aware that not everything is for you, but that just makes you available for the next opportunity, and that's sometimes a really good thing. Rejection can be great. Also, never think that you can't do something, because you put limits on yourself when you do that. So I think it's really important to know that if you want to do something, try your best to do it, and then you might surprise yourself. Oftentimes you will surprise yourself and you'll do that thing. So never ever think, no, that's too big for me, because nothing is too big for you.
Probably the advice I'd give to my past self would be not to underestimate the value of introducing yourself to people. A lot of time people used to say that to me, that it's who you know, not what you know. And I always thought that wasn't necessarily true, and I just trusted that, like, if you did an application well, you'd get the job. And I think sometimes it is a little bit of a balance. I've seen it firsthand. If you've really impressed a specific person, they will try and do their best to get you in with the production that they're on next. And I think I didn't really think that was true at first, and I didn't want to be that person who was emailing around and introducing myself to people, but actually I do think that's probably quite important.
Thank you for joining me in today's Careers Corner, ladies. It's been so much fun catching up, and I'm really proud of everything that you've achieved.
Thanks, T, it's been great.
Great catching up with you too, T. Bye.